Dungeon Doom Hands.
6 it is.
Talk lore,
so essential
a podcast.
campfire stories. So Chris, in your D&D games, do you think having campfire tales is good for your adventure? Now, it could be
Absolutely.
It could be like the characters around a campfire. It could also be referencing campfire stories from your childhood that you bring into the game, I would imagine.
Yeah. Well, initially when I'm thinking of that, I'm thinking of the party is camped out for the night, sitting around, and of course, like some random NPC is there. Is going to be telling a story, and I instantly thought of myth and legend and the crazy stuff that adventuring parties go after. So it's a perfect way to introduce new
Hooks.
things.
Like
plot hooks or
plot hook.
foreshadow events and dangers and like warnings or messages to the players or prophecies or anything else. It's a nice way to, when at the end of the day everyone's settling down, getting ready to rest, they're breaking out to their watches, and that's a nice time for role play of interacting with the players and players interacting with each other. It's like we're not really traveling, we're not fighting, we're not doing that stuff. We're sitting and talking and having fun. And this is like a great little story to pull in.
Yeah. So well, I mean, yeah, and I mean, so you're saying like you could have your plot hooks, you could have like immersion storytelling. It could be like a little lore drop on their background. You know what makes the character frightened and all that stuff.
Just like the normal
talk. Yeah.
Like myth and story of like the tale of like all the Grimm fairy tales or other tales like of werewolves and things to scare kids around to find Bigfoot.
So you could use it to sort of grow your world in the sense of like what's out there, what's mysterious and out there.
What stories would
Myths.
these people be telling about this place?
Yeah.
It's a way for you to put your world building into the story, into the minds of. I thought of this really cool mountain cave and these creatures, and I want to share it somehow. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna make a really cool story that's been terrifying these people for generations.
I think like if I were to do because I always overthink it, but hear me out. So if you were the power of essential, so first off, the topic was essential campfire tales, but we're talking about just general campfire tales and using it in your story.
Yes.
Now, if I was going to use a campfire story to make it interesting, I would have the group sit around a campfire, and maybe there's an NPC that tells a story, or maybe one of the group members wants to tell their own story. And then, because campfire tales are supposed to have, when I was growing up, they obviously were there to scare you, but there is a moral lesson in a good campfire story because you want to be able to relate to it. I can't wait for my kids to be older. Campfire story is going to be fun. I'm going to see how I can weave a moral story into it. But if this person does that and then the monster comes and gets him, whatever. What if you guys meet after you play your session, has nothing to do with the campfire, but maybe every now and then you see something that relates to the campfire.
Yeah.
Maybe the end monster killed someone with a cleaver, and you go back to the camp and then
all the foreshadowing from the story.
Yeah, and right at the end of the session, Chris, your character Stag, lays down and puts his head on his pillow, and bang, he takes 1 bludgeoning damage, and he flips over the pillow to see what it was, and it was the dagger thing or the thing that the guy killed. And then all of a sudden,
the thing from the story,
that NPC that was there becomes immediately dead. But so essential campfire tales. I feel like that's almost something that you should tell your group to make before the game. Hey guys,
I think that's a really cool way to bring their backstory into the game, or help let them world build something of where their character is from.
Yeah. Or and if you want to prepare that, you don't have to have 15 tales, but maybe the group wants to go around maybe it would be funny and like you reward, the NPC rewards, or maybe you guys all vote on who has the box, the enchanted box with the item in it has written on it in like Elvish to the best story, and then the group votes on who had the best story that they prepared for the session, so you can sort of reward your players for telling a good story, and then maybe you as a DM you roll and you see which story you want to build on. I think it's good. I think we hit on those points. Great place to do like quests and side quests and just weird immersion.
Yeah, I really love that idea of if you're ending the session at a long rest at a campsite, everyone's homework is make up a campfire story that your character would tell from where they're from, and when we start the session next time, we're just gonna sit around and tell stories.
or maybe your story, when you're telling it, and you want to, as DM, you want to surprise the characters. Maybe there's a flashback, and everyone's in the story. You play out the story.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah. Well,
there's some magic in the area that creates story to reality.
I'm gonna use that in the reality area. Like things are gonna just get really weird. You're gonna wake up and you're not gonna be in the the lower dark. You guys are gonna spend at least like 10 years. Random tangent. You guys are gonna spend at least like 10 months traveling from the middle dark down to the lower dark to try to figure out how to get there, and then you're gonna get there and things are just gonna be weird. It's gonna be. I'm gonna take from our previous podcast too. I'm going to take this campfire story, the one where we talked about like how you get your players in the world, or like with the cave that like smells like a cave, and the smell was the only thing that kept your character sane in there. Mm-hmm. Maybe like the reality thing is going to be wild. Like I'm super excited for that. But
I'm excited to play it.
Yeah. But yeah, that's cool. I mean, but then it's like essential campfire stories. Probably just background information from the world, I would say.
It's a fun way to throw lore in there.
Oh yeah.
To world build and to make something fun and unique. Yeah, I like it. But you said you could also think of essential campfire stories that, say, we would tell. How do you bring them into D&D?
I'm trying to remember a campfire story. It's so embarrassing too. Well, not embarrassing, but it's pathetic that I don't remember any good campfire stories. And it's always like, "Woo!" at the end, and like everyone's sort of, but it's always like the good ones were always like, to me, the good ones were told by like the camp counselors when you had a camping event at night. You're already a little eerie because it's nighttime and you're in the wilderness, and the campfire, the counselors know that they should tell a story that relates. It starts out like, you guys ever heard of Old Ben Creek or whatever? He used to go fishing down at the stream behind the pool. Like you can hear the stream, and like that was the way that they told the stories.
Yeah.
So something that you can sort of grab onto. But I like also the moral lessons. I do like the moral lessons that could come out from it. But I guess anything, like they were always like Chucky and Friday the 13th type.
Yeah.
Maybe not Chucky.
Something's good. Something to scare you, like that you think would be harmful in some way.
You're in a Toys R Us that way back when, and you see a doll and it attacks you. That's the worst horror. So like I hope the characters would vote that as maybe that was the best one.
Yeah.
Maybe we have to play out Toys R Us. I don't even remember what that looks like.
I have vivid memories of Toys R Us from South Miami.
86 and Lex. I just remember there was a Toys R Us. They turned it into like a party store that sells balloons, but it used to be a Toys R Us. I remember that. Walking by, you're on the bus and you want to go in, get chopped up by Chucky.
I remember getting a giant unicorn stuffed animal for my sister. That's way too big.
Oh shit!
Imagine
Yeah. Well, what do you mean?
Chucky tearing out of that.
You know what was sad too? The Toys R Us was located on the same block as a Blockbuster, and the old movie theater that closed down, which was just like, oh no, and it was it was like down the street from the Wiz. I mean, all of them gone. I'm not gonna
rest of that street.
I'm not gonna necessarily blame Amazon, but I do think that Netflix had something to do with it. All of that.
Random tangent.
Random tangent, for sure. This episode is now called Random Tangent, but water sounds good, Chris. Water sounds really good. So like, here's a random tangent. Don't forget that like your cities they should appear as real as possible, obviously, but in the way that they should appear real, there should be old Blockbusters that went out of business in your cities. So that's one thing I forgot. I should have had.
No, you did have that.
Which one?
Had an old shuttered shop in Trigard that we broke into and stayed in for free.
Oh, that's right.
You did shut down shops.
It was an old shutdown shop, and when you went in there, you had seen that the assassins or whatever they were.
Yeah, we found some old supplies. Yeah.
Cool. I'm happy I did that.
You did a good job on that.
Hey, pat myself. So yeah, that's your campfire.
Yeah.
Essential campfire stories. Really anything, I guess. But I would say probably to make it better to run. Because I'm always interested to figure out how to run things a little better. I would say like telling the players beforehand.
I love that idea of having them world build a little bit, because it feels a lot of times awkward to try and push like random facts about my backstory into the conversation, but that's a beautiful way to put as much of that in as you can.
Well, what about expanding on that? Are there any other things? So, like, as a dungeon master,
right?
Are there things that you should tell the players before, in between sessions, or that you could use to sort of set up a better run session? Or
I think anything that bogs down time while you're at the table, and as long as it doesn't really ruin any story element. A recent example of going shopping. Hey, we're going to be going to the market next time. Make sure you figure out all the stuff that you're going to want. We're going to use the basic prices, so just have everything that you're going to want. And we'll go through about finding it. Or if you're, downtime or prep, stuff that would take a lot of time at the table, I think is great to tell the players ahead of time.
I think, but anything that bogs down. So, like, what are examples of things that bogs down that you might want to tell?
Or like the mechanics that you gave us for the ship, the sky ship. You gave us the mechanics ahead of time so we could read through it and get at least somewhat familiar with it.
So I think I might have made a mistake with that. I gave the mechanics, but I didn't. I think I should over-explain, because you have a whole week or two between sessions.
Right.
Like, over-explain it. Make sure everyone gets it. Because, like, I was like, all right, who's your captain? And I sent out the list of rules, but, like, I think they were too much. So, like...
Well, it was worded perfectly for me to be able to quickly reference while we were playing. But having, like, an explanation of, this is what's happening, these are the mechanics, or even... as we get started, have that explanation written out that you read to us. So even if we've looked at the mechanics of it, as you're explaining it, it would piece everything together a little bit better. Yeah.
I mean, it was a very detailed list of rules for the ship.
Three separate documents.
Yeah, but like, you're human as a DM. You can forget the stuff, and I like it. I actually like when the players are like, I think I'm going to use the supercharge, and I'm like, what the hell is that? And then it turns out that I gave you a rule for the supercharge, and I'm like, oh shit, love it, because those are the rules that I made. So
yeah,
all right. So I
don't know where we were.
Yeah, we were just talking about campfire stories, but other things to tell your players. Like, I think it's fine to talk about the story and stuff. I always ask what you guys want every now and then. Is there something I can do to assist? I think all dungeon masters should. But
asking them where they're going, or anything to really direct the story where you're gonna want to take it. Like, all right, what's your mission? What's your plan? Figure out where you're going. Figure out who you want to talk to. Trying to think of other things that you would want to specifically tell them.
Yeah, because those things can also change quite fast. But what would you want to tell them?
Or have them prepare. I mean, again, I think goes back to anything that would just sit and bog down time. Combat is the biggest time sink in all of the game that we play. But we can't really do much about that.
That's true. No, you can't.
But anything else where we're looking up rules or... I think preparing for it. I think what you did with the skyship mechanics, or just informing people of information so they have time to read through, or time to think about it.
Yeah.
Or like if they're going to have a conversation with someone powerful coming up. Like, oh, you guys are in the city and you're on your way to go see this person. We're probably going to see them in the next session too, so make sure you prepare for that speech. It's going to be... this is the time for you to get the information that you're going to want to.
I agree. And then maybe you could ask where you're going. Where you're going is probably like a good idea, because
every session
you want to be
able to ask where you're going.
Yeah, what are you guys interested in? Good. So that's a couple things. I feel like there's not a lot. You don't want to give anything away too much, but I always like to say I'm going to get you on this one to someone, because I know that a couple people need some lore drops about their characters. So I want to keep them interested as the game goes. Right. So if they're deciding whether or not they need to do something on Monday night, I hope that little promise of little flair intrigues them to play.
Also, I feel like I am horrible at hiding anything from my players, so that they know like 5 sessions ahead of time all the strings I've been trying to pull, and I think I've been doing an amazing job of hiding it. And they're like, "Oh yeah, we knew about that when you said this."
That's funny. Well, I think you can get around that by having them. One of the DMs way back when, he had us join a fighters guild, like a hunters guild. Mm-hmm. And I guess you earn certain things, and if you went back somewhere, how many kills you had and all that stuff. But you get a list of creatures they're looking for.
Right.
And so I would imagine that each one of those had a story and little world building aspects. So you could drop the list at the end of the session, and then physically email, I guess not physically, but email the list to your players and say, this is the detail on the list, read it, and we'll do whatever you want. Tell me what you want or what you're interested in.
Yeah. Or you have that at the end of the session, and that's more of tell me where you're going. Tell me what you're gonna want to go kill.
Yeah, it's true.
It's just preparation. Anyway, anything to make your life as a DM easier is great. Tell me, or a session I'm gonna run for a couple friends. It's a I don't want to go off super random tangent on it, but tell me your backstory, tell me your connections with these characters, probing the information to try and make a cohesive story for the game you're going to run. And I mean, in asking the questions, some more detailed questions, you are going to reveal some of the story.
True.
But if it's going to make everything, the game that you play, that much better, I think it's worth it.
Yes, I agree.
Dungeon Doom Hands, Let's Talk Lore, a podcast.